And here we are. Time to climb the pocket, and it's dirty. It is me, Stacy Bauman, joined by my co-host, the scout, Daniel Kelly, on This Week in the Dirty Pocket. How are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well, Stacy. Thanks for asking. I would have worn one of those Guardian helmets tonight, or try to put a pillow or something over my head, because I hear there's a lot of fights breaking out in practices, joint practices around these different camps. So I'm not sure if the Guardian helmet's going to prevent anybody from getting hurt when people are throwing fists. But hey, why not? It will do anything to prevent those concussions, quote unquote.
I got to tell you, man, those things are goofy looking. They're goofy looking. I'm wondering what I'm assuming they're studying this thing. We're going to get some really concise study following training camp. I don't know. They're weird looking.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's I used to think that Mark Kelso looked strange for the Buffalo Bills years ago, but I tell you what,
Kelso. Oh my God!
But he actually looked pretty normal compared to what's going on with these mushrooms on the helmets. So that's for sure.
It is definitely a different kind of gig, I tell you. And training camp is in session, people. So we're deep into the preseason. We're already playing preseason games. Week 2 coming up. Is it tomorrow night or Friday night? I know the Rams play on Friday night. But my God, here we go. I mean, we're just a couple of weeks away from the regular season, and we've got more off-season junk to talk about. But before we get started, sticking to tradition, what is our beverage of choice tonight? Because we see that Jets hat, so we know the hat choice.
Oh, absolutely. Let's take a listen here. Okay, so we're going to be going tonight with something that's kind of a bedtime snack out here on the East Coast, Eastern time. We got a bang going tonight. A bang of blue and yellow Lemoncello. I mean, we're going straight off the pocket, off the edge tonight with this drink. We coming tonight. We coming now. This is the first time I've liked Bang a lot. I usually get the birthday cake kind because I like that. But let's take a taste here. I've never had this one. Let's see how it tastes.
All right, here we go. I'm guessing it's lemony. It's very lemony.
That's good. That's almost like a lemon meringue pie. That's really
okay.
Good.
All right.
Let me do that. Should I do the promo?
I'm assuming there's a song or something.
Okay, a jingle, a rap, maybe. Who knows?
There's something out of you on this one.
Okay. Let's do the Arsenio Hall thing here. Hold on. Okay.
Oh boy.
Okay. Now this is all off the cuff. I mean, we don't like edit this and take 4 takes. And I mean, this is like raw, unfiltered stuff.
This is live.
It's live. I mean, that shows the talent level. Okay, so let's just go with this. Okay. When you're with the New York Jets and your season starts with a bang because just about everyone's going down, grab for one of these and then grab for Joe Flacco as your starting quarterback.
Oh no. Flacco under center. Oh my God.
This message furnished by the National Football League.
New York Jets fans, they are not having the offseason that they had hoped to have.
Because they didn't follow what I tried to, I mean, you can only write 13 articles about something, I mean, what else can you do?
Yeah, there's not much you can do. That offensive line is officially in tatters. So let's jump right into this week. One of the things we want to cover 2 weeks in a row, Jets talk.
Yeah,
that's got to be some kind of record. I was just moments ago watching the replay of Kenny Pickett and his Steelers versus Geno Smith and the Seahawks. And my initial thought was, well, good luck to the fan bases of those franchises. Good luck, guys. Okay, we're going to jump into Jet talk for the second week in a row. And my God, that offensive line. So some big happenings. Mekhi Becton goes down. Fant gets moved. And Duane Brown joins the crowd at left tackle for the New York Jets. What say you, Scout Kelly, a few days into this development?
Well, it's not looking too good. I mean, Joe Douglas, the general manager of the New York Jets, had just months and months and months to try to put this together. And really, when you're a GM of an NFL team, you do what's called risk assessment. and you look at your positions, you look at your roster, you see like, I mean, when you look at Mekhi Becton, I mean, he had only started, I think, 15 out of 33 games since he came in as Joe Douglas's legacy pick, the first pick he made in the 2020 NFL draft after he took over in 2019. And the guy's really struggled with the injuries. He struggled to stay on the field, and he struggled with his weight. And that's not a recent phenomenon that's post-draft. I mean, there was pre-draft intel at Louisville that even talked about how Becton was struggling with his weight and was on a special diet even back then. So that's something that Douglas either missed or like ignored. But they drafted him anyways, and it's continuously been a problem. Okay. So what does Douglas do? Okay. First of all, George Fant on the left side played his best season of his career, and he's 30 years old last year. And it wasn't great. It was a B-. I graded it out at on game film. But I mean, that was his best season. Okay. And then he was going to bring back Becton and plug him in on the right side. Becton was, I mean, he showed up at OTAs with a shirt on that say big bust. You know, Mekhi Becton changed his Twitter account to big bust. I mean, the writing was on the wall. I mean, how much more plain can it become? I mean, it was on the wall, on his Twitter wall. So, I mean, it's like all that happened. And for months in SI Jets, I've been pleading with this organization to draft a left tackle, to draft the Owanku guy that I loved in the first round, to draft the Petit Ferrari, the kid from Ohio State, to draft the Kennard kid out of Kentucky, to sign a free agent when it was at the beginning of free agency. You don't wait until August to see who's still available in free agency. I mean, come on, everyone's already gone by that point. You know, that's what he did with Duane Brown. Everyone's like, oh, the Jets got a 5-time Pro Bowler. Come on, the dude's on the streets at the beginning of training camps, okay? This is not the same Duane Brown, okay? This is a C- graded guy last year. It's a guy that got into the Pro Bowl off name recognition alone. He allowed 7 sacks and 33 pressures per PFF. And this is not a big-time signing they had at left tackle. But Douglas just kind of put it off. He drafted – I mean, Joe Douglas has never been big on the offensive line to begin with, guys. He's only selected 4 out of 25 of his draft picks during his tenure to on the offensive line. So this has never really been a big deal for him to begin with. But then Becton goes down, which I want to talk about in a moment too. And then they bring in this Duane Brown. And then George Fant, you talk about being on the short end of the stick. George Fant, right, goes from I'm the starting left tackle of the Jets. I'm coming off my best season. I'm told all offseason I'm going to remain at left tackle. And there's some talk about Becton maybe trying to come back at left tackle. They concede the position to Fant and move Becton to the right side before he got injured. And then Becton goes down. And still ends up getting moved the right tackle, which he did not have a good 2020 season at right tackle. Okay, great. I was a C-. I wrote another article about that this week at SI Jets. And they bring in Duane Brown. Folks, you have 2 C- offensive tackles at left and right side right now. All Joe Douglas did this offseason was sign another guy who's on his 19th from the Buccaneers. He signed to bring in after Becton went down. And he drafts Max Mitchell, who I grade as a C- in the 4th round. Douglas has set this thing up to fail, which I've written articles about this offseason if you want to check it out on SI Jets. And what a disaster. I mean, really, Stacy, I mean, I'll stop and pause for stations to identify themselves and have a sip of my bang. But that is a disaster. It's almost like premeditated.
Yeah, I know you've been calling this out for weeks. And if you're a Jets fan, I bleed for you right now. I really do.
Awful. I think it's terrible. You guys deserve more than this. The entire fan base deserves more than this. You know, I wrote months ago that the Jets heading into the season with George Fant and Mekhi Becton offensive tackle is like a house built with 2 pillars, cracked pillars held together by duct tape. I mean, how Joe Douglas could miss this as far as risk assessment is just – I can't understand how the New York media is not holding him accountable, because that New York media is tough. And when you build a team with paper tigers on the outside, everything else is going to fold. It doesn't matter about all the great picks, the Garrett Wilsons, the Breece Halls, the Sauce Gardners, the Michael Clemens. It doesn't matter. If your offensive line is awful, you're not going to win more than 3 or 4 games in this league.
It all starts up front. There's no doubt about it. I tell you what, you look at the roster depth on that offensive line, and oh my God, it is paper thin.
It's all
It is
low budget.
bad.
It's all low budget. It's all guys who have been low draft picks, undrafted free agents, guys that are on their second, third, or fourth team. And get this, you want to know the scary part about this, Stacey?
There's a lot of
is almost all those backups you just touched on, almost all their contracts are up after this year.
Oh God, that might be okay. I'll tell you what. Yeah. I'm looking at that. Behind Duane Brown is Chuma Edoga and Greg Senat. And then just going from left to right on that offensive line. And then at left guard, Laken Tomlinson is backed up by Dan Feeney and Chris Glazer. At center, Connor McGovern and Ross Piersbacher. At right guard, and I think this guy's going to end up playing some tackle this year. I can already see it. Elijah Vera Tucker.
He's a good football player.
Yeah, who's good. Backed up by Nate Herbig and Isaiah Williams. And then, of course, George Fant makes the shift over to right tackle. And Connor McDermott, Max Mitchell, and Grant Hermans behind him. That is not an offensive line. I mean, you've got two very young running backs in Carter and now Brees. And you've got a quarterback, and we're about to get to him, who's in his sophomore season, and a bunch of young, brand new wide receivers, and your offensive line is a tattered mess. Yeah, it's not going to be good in New York this year. I can't see it.
And Laken Tomlinson, folks, is a much better run blocker than he is a pass protector. You know that, Stacey.
Oh, yeah.
You watched Laken Tomlinson driven back into Jimmy Garoppolo's face for the entire NFC Championship game. I mean, he's not what you want in a pass protector, and they let him walk in San Francisco. That should tell you something by itself. But, not good news. And just really quickly, can I touch on one more thing with Becton before we move on?
Yeah, let's go stick to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, because this is really concerning to me, and this is going to lead us into talking about the sophomore quarterback you touched on, Stacey, is Mekhi Becton, okay? If you go back and look at Connor Hughes, who did some reporting for SNY, he's one of the Jets' main beat writers, on August the 5th, and I talk about this in my article in SI Jets, on August the 5th, there's a Twitter picture on there showing Mekhi Becton wearing a clunky right knee brace at practice. Okay. And then you flash forward to, I think it was August the 8th. And you see him in his morning practice, and he comes up. The video's right on there. Go on Twitter, type in Mekhi Becton. Go to the videos on Twitter. You can see the stuff pull up. Okay, August the 8th, they SNY post a video of Mekhi Becton in the morning practice come up really lame, and all of a sudden he starts like hobbling around, and he's like reaching for his knee, and he's rubbing his knee, and he looks very uncomfortable with that right knee. I mean, anybody, where is team management when you're watching this guy limping and hobbling around and nobody's doing anything about it? Okay, flash forward a couple hours later, afternoon practice, second play, he goes down for good. Inexcusable, guys. Inexcusable. Yeah. This is a guy who's coming off knee surgery to begin with. He's hobbling around. He's wearing a big knee brace. And you just, where is the team doctor? Where is management? When you see, I mean, go watch the video. I'm not exaggerating this stuff. When you watch the video, when you see the morning practice and you see him hobbling around, rubbing his right knee on the sideline, and nobody does anything, if you're a Jets fan, you are going to be sending in some fan mail. It's infuriating to see. And they continue to kept him out there, and then he goes down on the ground. It's awful. I just don't understand why they did not care about Mekhi Becton more than that when all the signs were there. It's almost like this whole offseason. You know, they bet everything on this guy coming back. Then when he tried to come back, they weren't even there for him. He just crumbled on the ground and just laid there. It was just awful.
Yeah, it wasn't a pretty scene. It wasn't a pretty scene. I mean, the Jets, for as much as I think they stole the NFL draft, we talked about this last week, my God, are they taking some hits this offseason? So let's moving off the offensive line, which I think is a mess. I mean, I don't know what else they could be asked to do when you lose your left tackle and a guy that you drafted that high. You plug in a guy like Duane Brown and you pray, you hope for the best. I mean, I honestly, I took a look around. I don't know what else they really can do except pull off some blockbuster trade.
Orlando Brown. Orlando Brown's not happy with the Chiefs. They can't come to terms. Why not make a phone call, pitch 2 number ones at him, bring in a left tackle who's an elite kind of upper echelon tackle, at least try to make a play for him. Another guy that's sitting out there that would cost a lot less is Andre Dillard, who's fallen out of favor with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's a younger guy who graded up pretty well. When I looked at him in game film, I think it was a B grade I gave him. He is somebody who can come in and do the job. Because listen, folks, when you look at the Jets' schedule, I mean, just look at the teams they're playing in the first 9-10 weeks, okay? And look at the kind of pass rushers the Jets are scheduled to play many of the elite pass rushers in the NFL this season. Your offensive tackles, listen, they can't be these guys. I mean, Duane Brown and George Fant, they played together in Seattle, and they're almost the same player to begin with, the same type of player, okay? They both rely on these big frames that they have and long arms, and they roll out in the perimeter. They kick out nicely initially on the pass protection. But let me tell you something, folks. Neither one of them has good enough lateral foot speed to match these elite pass rushers at all. And then these guys, they lose to the inside. They can get bull rushed they can be put on skates, as we call it in scouting, back into the quarterback. Listen, there's going to be a lot of lookout blocks this year in New York because those two guys, you cannot line up against elite pass rushers. These guys are going to be running circles. These pass rushers are going to be running circles around Duane Brown and George Fant. And by the way, George Fant does not look natural at all on game film at right tackle. They're going to have to go to a lot of 12 personnel looks, in my opinion, for Michael LaFleur. That's bringing in the 2 tight ends, and they're going to have to sit there. They're going to basically have to be there to help chip and block on the edges. Otherwise, there'd be a lot of lookout blocks.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong about this. It's going to be something to behold. Feel bad for the 2 young backs, and I feel bad for Zach Wilson at this point. So moving into Zach Wilson, in the interest of time, he goes down. Jets Nation absolutely takes a dump. Everybody is on the floor sucking their thumb and praying for the best. And it turns out he undergoes surgery, little tear in his meniscus. He's expected to possibly start week 1, at least by week 2. Oh, man, the Jets load up on some great skill position players, and the injury bug is already hitting that team. Starting left tackle, starting quarterback.
Very predictable, very predictable. I mean, here's the interesting thing about it for SI Jets last week on Monday's edition. I wrote in there in plain English, the Jets may want to – it was just a hunch, okay? I wrote in there, if you go read it, when I previewed the game, I said the Jets may very well want to rest Zach Wilson against the Philadelphia Eagles, okay? And of course they didn't. Joe Douglas never does what I write about, okay? And they didn't, and Zach Wilson goes down, okay? Here's the problem with this, okay? I wrote another article that was not received too kindly, but let me say this, okay? Yes, I have been Zach Wilson's greatest critic in America. I am the only voice in America that called him a bust pre-draft, okay? But as I explained in the article, I'm also his greatest advocate. That's why I've been advocating for better pass protection for him. And because when you look at this, okay, this is a young man who was sacked 44 times last year, 3rd most in the NFL. This is a guy who was hit umpteen times. He avoided countless hits because he could get out of there with his mobility. And did we not learn anything from Mekhi Becton, what I just described, okay? They raced him back. He blew out his knee, okay? Now, this is the scary part, okay? Last season, Zach Wilson came up limping two times outside of his knee injury, okay? He came up limping a couple times against New England before the injury, and also against Houston, he came up limping. Hey, MTO, what's up? And then he got hurt. Okay, so he gets hurt last year Now he goes down, he gets hurt in the preseason, and they're all talking about racing him and rushing him back. We just got done talking about the 2 paper tigers they have at offensive tackle. We just got done talking about the elite pass rushers that play week in and week out, and they're going to try to race Zach Wilson back. Listen, folks, he's had 2 knee surgeries in 2 years, okay? This is a situation that reminds me a lot of what happened with RG3. The interesting thing about this is RG3 was coached by Mike and Kyle Shanahan in Washington. And let's not forget, Robert Saleh comes from Kyle Shanahan's tree in San Francisco. Okay, what happened to RG3? They raced him back. He had the big clunky knee brace on. It was a low snap. We all remembered against Seattle in the playoff game. His knee folded like a tent. Listen, if they race back Zach Wilson, they risk a career-ending injury, is my prediction on this one. Because if they race him back, there's a high probability that he's going to blow out that knee. And the reason I say that is because the knee injury last week against Philadelphia was a non-contact injury. In scouting, those are the worst kind of injuries because they point to an extreme vulnerability, weakness, and tenderness in the place of interest of the injury where the injury occurred. Okay, so when a player goes down from a non-contact injury, that points to the knee not being that strong and being weak. And you throw him back out there, I tell you what, they very well could be putting his career at jeopardy.
Okay, so that leads to a bigger question. And MTO has joined the crowd loyally.
Yeah, MTO.
I will ask this of you as a writer that covers the Jets and MTO as a loyal fan. I'm going to throw it out there, and it's, I was hopeful for the Jets. I do agree with the offensive line woes. But if the Jets suck, and I mean suck, and it's starting to look like that's a strong possibility, and you go into that draft next year and you've got a shot at one of those quarterbacks, CJ Stroud or any of the other top 3-4 guys, do you pull the trigger?
Absolutely. This is why I've been writing for SI Jets about these college quarterbacks for the last 9-10 weeks. One a week. I wrote about all of them because I've seen this coming. I didn't see the injury coming in the preseason per se, but I did see it being a very bleak situation for Zach Wilson with the situation of Joe Douglas is built to tackle. I mean, it's easy math. You cannot put these kind of people at offensive tackle and then look at your schedule in 2022. You match up against almost all the elite pass rushers out there. I mean, how is that going to work? How are you going to be able to protect your quarterback? How are you going to be able to protect your franchise investments when you have 2 guys? I mean, all the heat comes from the outside of the dirty pocket. It's all coming off the edge, okay? And when you put these kind of people at left and right tackle, and you're going to go up against these elite pass rushers, you might as well have a pinata under center.
Okay, but they're painting themselves into a corner, right? Because the tackle problem isn't going to go away next year, so you're still going to need a left tackle at least, probably another tackle, at least a swing tackle, and you may have a shot at one of the top quarterbacks, which may mean that Mekhi Becton and Zach Wilson get scrapped after 2 seasons in the league and get just dumped and traded away. I mean, I see this as a strong possibility at this point, especially with the injuries that they both had, and they're going into their sophomore seasons. I mean, this is a serious deal. So I think the Jets find themselves in a very hairy situation.
Let me say this to MTO's point really quickly, can I?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. The UVA kid is a very interesting prospect. Okay, the Brennan Armstrong from Virginia. There, he's a southpaw kid. He's a left-handed kid. Okay, and he runs at that Virginia attack last year was very, very cutting edge, and it was exactly what Mike LaFleur, the type of offense that LaFleur likes to run, with all the trick plays and the 2-3 touches. And the different razzle-dazzle stuff that we saw to LaFleur last year, bits and pieces, especially the first half of the Miami game. You're right, MTO. That's why I want to touch on this. I thought of Brennan Armstrong when I did that evaluation and I did that podcast this morning. I thought I even talked about it in the podcast. I specifically thought about him matching up with LaFleur. It's very interesting you mentioned that, and that's a distinct possibility. He'll be a lower first round guy that'll be sitting there right between 28 and 36.
Well, they may have. I think they're going to have a shot at him, and there's going to be a few teams. But this Zach Wilson, Mekhi Becton thing is starting to look uglier by the minute. Yeah, we won't go into Malik Willis. We only got so many minutes in this show. Looked fantastic the other night. Couldn't agree more. MTO, he looked really athletic, strong. I swear to God, I felt like I was looking at a defensive end. He's just big and strong.
I tried telling those folks in Detroit they should have taken him number 2 overall. That guy, Malik Willis. I mean, Brian Ball. What was it? The guy from the NFL Network.
Brian Baldinger, or
Baldinger.
God, there's so many of them.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, he even said that he's a young version of Lamar. The Baltimore quarterback,
Lamar Jackson, huh?
Yeah,
he looks bigger. He looks bigger to me than Lamar Jackson. He is
bigger, and he's got a big arm, and yeah, he's going to be a good one for Tennessee.
Big guy. Okay, so there we go with New York Jets talk to start off the show, and God, they're in the headlines. It's a really big deal. I want to jump over to a guy that's been playing the game for a couple of years now, and I just find this entire thing really curious, very strange, and to be honest, kind of a sign of our times too. Tom Brady decides in the middle of training camp that he's going to take a 2-week vacation. And it was pre-planned, and Todd Bowles knew all about it. Translation, I'll come back if you let me take a 2-week vacation. I think it goes without saying that Brady runs the show. And at this point, he seems to be doing exactly what he wants. And hopefully it's not a serious matter. I just want to say that. I tend to doubt that. But what are we looking at in the NFL today where a starting quarterback, on a team that's lost his favorite target in Rob Gronkowski, who's had injuries at the wide receiver position, guys coming back who recruited a couple of guys, Julio Jones and Russell Gage, and I'm going to take a couple of weeks off in the middle of training camp? What do you make of this?
Well, what you're saying, Stacey, is exactly right. I think it's a sign of the times.
Yeah, it's been nuts.
We're seeing this more and more. We're seeing this. We saw it with Aaron Rodgers, when he went rogue with the Packers. We've seen it with Kyler Murray, take his ball and go home and pout and scrub his social media. We've seen it in different places. And, now we're seeing Tom Brady. I mean, if anybody in the league is entitled to do anything, it's probably Tom Brady, because he's won enough rings and done enough things. But, it's pretty bizarre just to get up and leave in the middle of camp like that. And I mean, almost like a pre-excused absence. I mean, that's I think there might be more to it. I don't want to speculate.
Right.
I hope there's nothing serious going on.
Yeah, of course not.
It's a little bit bizarre, to say the least. And now, I mean, these quarterbacks are waking up and realizing it'd be like, hey, listen, this big money's coming down the turnpike from this new TV deal or this new deal they're going to begin with Apple next year. And Lamar Jackson said that, he's given the Ravens to week 1 as an ultimatum, to come up with an extension. And these other teams, things are happening too. And it's just bizarre. It really is. It's a bizarre story. I've never seen anything like it. I don't know about you, but the 40 years I've been around the game,
no,
I've never seen one take a 2-week vacation in the middle of training camp.
I'm trying to remember Joe Montana or Steve Young or Peyton Manning or Archie Manning or anybody going, I know we just started training camp, but I'm going to need a couple of weeks.
But he's right.
I'll be back.
MTO is right about Kyle Trask.
Trask, yeah.
Kyle Trask was my 2021 QB3 in the draft. I like him a lot, the Florida kid, and a very unorthodox passer. And it could be interesting. We may see Trask sooner than later this season, which is a prediction I made in the Dirty Pocket a few weeks ago.
So, I mean, do you think it's possible Brady, like in a few days, announces, you know what, guys, my bad, I need to retire. I retired and I came back. I think he clearly retired because of the Miami Dolphin disaster that he was a part of. That's my take on it. But do you think there's a chance Brady just pulls the plug? And, I hope nothing terrible's happening to the guy. But I just get this weird vibe like he got to camp. He's looking around. There's no Rob Gronkowski. There's none of this. Bruce Arians is gone. There's just this maybe suddenly it's all sitting down on him, and he realizes, well, maybe I should just be off with Giselle, in the Florida Keys, hanging out with the scout and having some fruity drinks or something. I don't know. I just get this. I agree at MTO. I think the Gronk thing's a bigger deal than people realize. And very good. MTO might as well just be the color guy on this show. Very good point that he lost his center, Ryan Jansen. So now his offensive line's taking a hit as well. He's got receivers coming off injury. He's got Julio Jones past his prime. Gronkowski's nowhere to be seen. Is there a chance that we get this just mind blower on a Friday night? Tom Brady has opted to, in fact, retire after all. Have a good day.
Well, he clearly wants, I think he wants a San Francisco job. He wants to get out there to the Barry before he hangs him up. And, anything's possible. I mean, we've seen crazy stuff happen ever since we've started this show together. Every single week, there's some kind of weird, unexpected thing that's happened or something that's different. It's outside the box. So yeah, sure. It's definitely possible, it very well could happen, where the coach just says, well, it's like one of those things, like they tell you at a company or something when you're not doing too well or something's a little bit off. They're like, well, take a couple days and figure it out. Maybe that's what they've done with him. Who knows?
Yeah, no, I think that there's just something strange going on here. I don't think
there's something more to it. Yeah, there's something more to it.
Yeah, and by the way, extending that just a few seconds more, I tend to really think that we're probably no matter what, seeing the last season with Tom Brady, and I think that this is going to affect him this year. I think that this may not be the year that maybe some had expected the Bucs to show up and be. So it's a very interesting developing story, so to speak. I've never seen it before, not from a starting quarterback. I'm not saying he hasn't earned it with all he's done in the league. Nonetheless, little brand new head coach, but it's just not a great looking thing. Okay, a couple of other quick items. I'm with you. I'm with you, MTO. Todd Bowles is a great defensive mind, great coach. You got to wonder if he's going, maybe get Trask, have him play all 4 quarters the next couple of games. I would. Yeah, isn't Josh Rosen down there now too? Who picked up Josh Rosen, or was that the Browns? God, somebody.
Yeah, it's the Browns. And Josh Rosen, that's
that's right. It's Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah, it's another conversation with those guys.
Blaine Gabbert, who looks an awful lot like Kenny Pickett. Has anyone seen the two of them in the same room at the same time? Okay, a couple of other quick hits that we did not talk pre-show as we prep for this incredibly dialed-in format that we have. Derwin James, just a few hours ago, signs the richest contract for a safety in the history of the NFL, agrees to a $76.4 million deal, 4 years. I believe $29 million is guaranteed. What are these times we're living in? Now, listen, Derwin James is a great football player. Is he the best safety in the history? It's really something. And although I do believe that the Chargers, that other team in LA that aren't world champions, are putting something special together. Their roster looks incredible. But you just locked up a safety for $76.4, 29 guaranteed. What say you, Scout?
That's a bad investment. It
seems a little high.
It is a lot high, and especially for a position of safety. It's if I'm going to put that kind of money into somebody as a GM, it's going to be into a corner. It just is. The safeties are there just to provide help over the top. A lot of times they're not really matched up a lot against anybody in a one-on-one situation, and a lot of these different looks. Yeah, that's a lot of money to put in a position that doesn't get a whole lot of play. Most of the times the safeties aren't coming up for run support anymore too, because they don't want to get injured. They just kind of run up by the pile at the end, a lot of them. Yeah, great player, no question. But it's just and that's the sign. That's the times. I mean, the crazy thing about it is that the sign of the times you talk about. The thing to me is the disconnect between the American consumer and the game. Okay, and where the disconnection is going to come here. We got everybody and their brothers signing record deals. It seems like every time we turn around the NFL, someone signed, like today, like you talked about, another record deal, and then we have the rest of society talking about the price of gas. And it's like, where's the disconnect here? Like, at some point, right? I mean, the consumer is the one that's supporting all this. I mean, they say corporate America is, but let's not kid ourselves. The consumer is supporting corporate America. That's where the money's coming from. So at what point is there going to be a disconnect? Or are we just going to continue to see guys getting paid $500, $600, $700, $1 billion? And the little guy over here is he's complaining because his electric bill went up last month.
Well, I'll tell you what is going to happen, and without turning this into a political show, is at some point these franchises that are perennial losers and constantly losing, they're going to start to lose money because people don't want to pay. Yeah, in really, really hard times. Yeah, there's a lot of revenue sharing going on that keeps them afloat. But still, without a championship, you're looking at your Detroit Lions, your Cleveland Browns, your Jacksonville Jags. Some of these teams.
Washington,
the Commanders.
Their gate receipts are way down. They talk about having a 65,000 seat stadium. They got 45,000 season tickets supposedly. So that's 20,000 empty seats at a minimum per game. When I went out there for the Washington-San Francisco game back in 2019, when I interviewed out there, the Redskins couldn't hear their own snap count, their own stadium. It was so loud with opposing fans. I mean, that whole thing, these teams is a bad situation.
Yeah.
Without revenue sharing, it would be even worse.
Yeah, this Derwin James thing's kind of a mind blower. I agree with MTO. One of the biggest concerns I had is he's been hurt a lot. Like, we know he's talented. We know he's really talented. One of the top safeties for sure, but he's banged up a lot. And I don't think I don't want to call him a difference maker for the Chargers. Sorry, I don't. That's Justin Herbert. That's your quarterback. I put Keenan Allen over him. There's other stuff going on there. So very interesting. Okay, I know. Hey, and for all those listening, that means you, MTO. We're trying to get these shows in under 45 minutes. So in the interest of time, oh, that's a very good point. Great comparison with Jamal Adams. Oh, what a disaster. Speaking of the Jets, and one other top story I thought would be interesting to get some perspective on, that I didn't cue you up for, but I know you have an opinion.
Come on, guys.
I know you have
earpieces. Come on.
I know you have an opinion on this. Yesterday, day before, the two-time reigning most valuable player of the National Football League in Green Bay basically told his young wide receiver core to get their act together. Called them out in the national media. At least that's the perception. Telling them that got to catch the ball. He had one pass to the kid Rob from, was it Nevada?
Oh,
really.
Dobbs.
Yeah, Dobbs. Thank you.
I like Dobbs a lot.
But got behind the secondary. Rodgers pinpoint beautiful throw. Kid dropped it. Just dropped it. And so Rodgers is coming out now going, hey, these guys got to get it together if we're going to be ready for prime time. And he's taking a little bit of heat for that. A little bit of heat. Not seen as the mentor. I believe you have some opinions on Aaron Rodgers and his leadership capabilities. What do you say to that? Is it smart for a quarterback to come out and throw a bunch of his rookie wide receivers under the bus?
No. No, that's that's not the smartest thing to do. I mean, then again, you see, here's another team. We talked about the Joe Douglas with the two pillars with the duct tape around them at tackle. Some of these teams don't make any sense at all. The Detroit Lions are another one, no real backup quarterback. Green Bay, okay, Green Bay's trying to push for a Super Bowl, okay, and they come back with a stable full of rookie wide receivers. Hello,
Don't
where's
get it.
the team planning in that? Hello, you let Devontae Adams get away when you're trying to push for a Super Bowl championship, and same thing with Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes. Nobody realizes just how dependent Patrick Mahomes was on Cheetah, on Tyreek Hill. That was his go-to guy he looked for. No more Cheetah there in Kansas City either. These teams, these GMs, these teams, the way they're planning doesn't make any sense. But yeah, the Green Bay thing, calling out your young receivers, they need all the confidence they can get, going into the NFL. I don't know. I understand the logic of what he was doing, but I just can't see the upside on that comment.
Yeah, I think he was going for the tough love thing, and it may have somewhat backfired on him.
I think he's drinking too much of that psychedelic
ayahuasca. Ayahuasca. Yeah, he likes that.
Yeah, it's not working out too well for him. I think he maybe had one cup too much of that this last week.
Yeah, I saw that too. That Christian Watson.
Like Watson. Well, you know my feelings of Christian
overrated.
Watson. I put Christian Watson as a 4th or 6th round pick. Everyone thought I was out of my mind. This is a guy who when you turn on the tape and you look at him at NDSU, everyone's like, oh, he's a 4.28 at the combine. Quick, grab him. And listen, the guy runs when you watch him on game film, he looks like a 4.65. He couldn't even hardly outrun FCS corners to the edge on a jet sweep. The guy labors in and out of his breaks, the short to intermediate range of the field. The guy was just a tremendous reach, a tremendous overvalue, tremendously bad scouting in Green Bay on Christian Watson. I wrote a couple articles for SI Lions and also for SI 49ers. If you want to check it out, type in Daniel Kelly, Christian Watson on Google. You can go see it. It's all there. There's nothing. I mean, when you're playing FCS ball, here's the scouting rule. If you're playing at a lower level, there's nothing wrong with lower level foot. That's great. Okay. But if you're going to be in the NFL draft, the rule of thumb is for scouts is the guy has got to stand out. He's got to look like a man amongst boys. He's got to look elite at that level to even have a chance in the NFL to be elite. When you turn on Christian Watson and watch him at NDSU, I'm sorry. There is nothing. Let me repeat, nothing elite looking about him. And look at the guy statistically. I think he was like the number 45th ranked receiver or something in his own conference. I mean, there's nothing elite about this guy at all. It's just a bunch of hype that caught on, Senior Bowl hype, combine hype, and the guy is going to be a bust. Romeo Doubs is a guy in Green Bay to watch.
Okay, I agree. So I think it's very interesting as we're up against the clock. But Matt LaFleur,
Quay Walker, I gave an undrafted free agent grade to, by the way. MTO,
that Packers front office is as bizarre as it gets. And I'll tell you what: if you're a Packers fan, when Aaron Rodgers does decide to walk away, love him or hate him, he's by far and away their best player. He's the AP of the National Football League. When he walks away, that franchise is going to slide into the bowels of hell. I don't know. They draft terrible. I don't know what their scouting department does. I don't know what LaFleur is doing. I got a feeling he's an offensive coordinator in his next stop, not a head coach. That is just a very strangely run organization. And love or hate Rodgers, he's really the reason they're competitive. And when he decides, I'm going to go do ayahuasca and live in the mountains and grow my beard, the Green Bay Packers franchise is going to, oh, man.
Wyatt's a stud. MTO, Wyatt's a stud. I love Wyatt, the defensive tackle.
Yeah. And I agree. Watching Jordan Love, I thought, well, there's your next Geno Smith. Sorry, guys. I don't see it. When they made that pick, I was absolutely baffled. That they made that pick. Jordan, you kind of see a trend in Green Bay with Christian Watson and Jordan Love. They seem to go after these, underwear Olympic guys, these guys that impress at the combine instead of watching 3-4 years of college tape, and they fall in love with these guys and draft them. And my prediction is Jordan Love is a backup in the National Football League after maybe 1 year in Green Bay. I don't see it at all. So this next upcoming draft is going to be massive for teams looking for quarterbacks. Unfortunately, I'm going to say it. It kind of makes me feel terrible, but I think the Jets might be one of those teams, like Zach Wilson and Mekhi Becton are 2 years in.
I spent the entire summer writing about the next Jets quarterback, who they're going to draft.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, folks. There's another week from the Dirty Pocket as we navigate the National Football League in the off season. And boy, have there been some crazy stories. Scout Kelly, any parting shots here?
Yeah, I think there is. I think.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I think there is. Don't look now in San Francisco, but Jimmy Garoppolo is still there, and I'm getting the sense that now this week they're not gonna play Trey Lance against the Vikings. They don't want to do anything to hurt the little bit of confidence they tried to build him last week, and he had the one touchdown pass when he toasted that third string reject safety in Green Bay. It was matched up solo on Danny Gray. They're not going to play him, but Jimmy Garoppolo is still hanging around San Francisco. Something tells me he's on the on-deck circle still, and if anything goes awry with Trey Lance, I don't think, everyone's like, well, why is he still there? Why nobody wants him? I don't think he's ever been on the market yet. That's my parting shot.
All right. We're going to watch this closely. We're in week 2 of the preseason, so quarterback hungry or desperate teams. Pick up that phone, call San Francisco, and let us know what they tell you. Very interesting. Of course, my parting shot is the world champions are still in the NFC West. So here's my attitude towards it. I'm looking at Geno Smith, Drew Lock, Trey Lance, a disgruntled and sometimes interested Kyler Murray. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. My parting shot is look out. Run it back in Los Angeles. Run it back. That NFC suddenly has some interesting storylines, does it not? The world champs are looking at a Buccaneers team where Tom Brady takes a vacation 2 weeks into camp. They're looking at a Packers team where Aaron Rodgers is already lipping off about his receivers. I'm liking the looks of the NFC.
You know what the greatest irony in this whole thing would be? If Jimmy Garoppolo, if the 49ers traded him, let's say Brady, to your point, decides to hang him up, and Jimmy G gets traded to the Buccaneers, and then Jimmy G leads the Buccaneers to the NFC Championship game. That'd be the greatest irony of all.
That would be an irony, but I do not see that happening. I think Kyle Trask will get that job when Tommy Boy hangs it up, and he should. Yeah, it'd be interesting. I'm always up for watching Aaron Donald slam him back into the turf. It's a good time from where I sit. All right, folks.
Somebody do something about this guy's Rams.
We got a whole season, baby. Whole season. I want to thank everybody for listening, watching, subscribing. Hit us up on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, where we replay the show. You can find the Scout on Sports Illustrated New York Jets. You can find MTO rooting for the New York Jets. Thanks again for being here. Some great reminders. So, folks, we will see you next week on the Dirty Pocket. We're getting closer to kickoff, where we'll have a lot more analysis and fun stuff to talk about. In the meantime, be well out there. For myself, Stacey Bauman, we will see you next week. And from the Scout,
sounds like we're going out with a bang.
Oh, my. Can't be.